So I'm gonna come to this page later because this page requires a lot of work. They place order, and before working on this, we need to work on a very important thing in the checkout. We cannot allow the user to check out if the cart is empty. So let me explain what I mean. So if I go to the cart here and if I add a product, but if I change my mind and remove that product, and if I click on checkout, it's going to take me to the checkout page. So the user will be able to check out even though there is nothing in the cart. And this is a problem. This is a bug. To fix this bug, we need here in the checkout at the top, we need to check whether the cart is empty or not. So we need to say PHP, and then we need to say, here we need to say session start, and then we need to check the session. I'm going to say if is not empty session cart, if the session is not empty, and also we need to check if user came to this page through the checkout button or through an external link. So the user should come to the checkout page only by clicking on this button. If user comes to the checkout page from an external link, we shouldn't allow this because this could pose a problem to our system. So we need to check this button. We need to check whether the user came to this page from the checkout or not. And that can be done using here the is set. If is set, post, and then the name of the button is checkout. So if these conditions are met, then let user in. Else what we want to do, we need to send user to home page, because they cannot place an order if they don't have, if the cart is empty, or if they came to the page through an external link. So we need here to say header, and then location index.php. Let me show you now what's gonna happen. So now if I go back to the home page, let me go to the home page, and let me add something to the cart. So if I add this product to cart, and if I click on checkout, I will be able to go to the checkout page, because there is a product in the cart. There is a product. Obviously there is a product in the cart. Let me show you that one more time. If you go to the cart, there is a product in the cart. Obviously there is a product, but if I remove this product, let me remove this product, and now I don't have anything in the cart. The cart is empty. If I click on checkout, I will be taken to the home page. Let me show you that one more time. So let me go to the cart. Let me add something to the cart. Let me remove it from the cart. Let me remove this from the cart. Now there is nothing in the cart. If I click on checkout, I will be taken to the home page. Welcome back. Now what we need to do is that we need to display here the total amount and work on this form. Let's first display the total amount to remind the user with the total amount of the products that they want to pay for. So here in the checkout, I'm going to say here P, I'm going to use paragraph, and then above the button, just above this place order button, I'm going to say here total amount, and then I'm going to say $sign, and then I'm going to use PHP. I'm going to say here PHP, and then echo, and then session, and then remember the key that stores the total amount was created in the cart. So in the cart, remember here, in the cart we have a function that calls calculates the total amount, which is this function, and then it stores the total amount in a key called total. So here in the checkout, we can say session total. This is gonna display the total amount above the button. Let me test now. Let me here refresh, and as you can see, it's gonna display the total amount just above the button, which is important because you need to remind the user with this amount that they need to pay. So if you go back and test one more time, let me add another product. So I'm going to increase here, I'm going to say 2, and then I'm going to update. And now the total is 310, and here it says 310. So this is going to display the total here above the button, which is very, very important. Welcome back. Now it's time to work on placing an order. And placing an order is going to it's going to be a long process, because you might think that the process is just storing user information in the database, and that's not correct. There are many, many ways in order to accomplish placing an order. And let me break down the process into few steps so that you understand. So now the first step is that we need to open up the place order.php. And let me here type the steps that we want. So the first step is that we need to get user info, because of course in order to send the products to the user, we need their email, we need their city, we need their phone number, we need their address in order to send the package and products to them. The second step is that we need to store here get user info and store it in database. The second step is that we need to store order information, order info. And to store the order information in database, we first need to get products from cart. So the second step is to get products from cart. So let me here type 1. I'm going to say 1. The first step is to get user info and store it in database. The second step is to get products from cart, from the session actually. Let me add here not. I'm going to say from session so that you don't forget that the information is in the session. The third step is that we want to store the order in information in database. So after we get the products from the session, we need to take these products and store them in the database and issue a new order. So we need to create a new order in the orders table, and we need to store each individual product in the order items. So for example, let me go back to the home page and explain the process. For example, if I want to buy a pair of shoes and a bag, then each one of these must be stored in the order items. But both of these items will have one single order because they belong to the same person who wants to buy these two. So these two items will have the same order ID, but they will be stored in the order items so that we know the items that the user wants to buy. So here the third step is to store order info in the database. First I need to say here issue new order and store order info in database. And finally store each single item in order items database. And the last step is to remove everything from cart, and actually this is the fifth step, and the sixth step is to tell the user or inform the user that whether everything is uh, fine or there is a problem. There is a problem. And if there is a problem, we need to tell them. If everything is fine, we need to remind them we need to take them to the payment page. So this is the last step. Let's start working on these steps. So let's start on the first step. So the first step is to get user info and store it in the database. So in order to get the user info, we need to head on over to the checkout and get these fields from the form. So here we have the names, name, email, phone, city, address, and place order. So here, if the user clicks on place order, we need to get the name. I'm going to say name is equal to post name, and then we need to get the email, and then we need to get the phone, and then we need to get the phone and city and address. So we have city and address. City, post, city. And lastly, we need to get the address. So the address is going to be equal to post address. That's it. Now we want to insert these into the database, these values in the database. And to do this, we need to import the connection. Remember the connection class, the connection file, because the connection will allow us to connect to the database. So at the top here, I'm going to say include, and then since we are in the same file, the place order.php is in the same file as the connection. So we just need to say here connection.php. And before I forget, we also need to say session start, because I'm going to be using the session later. I don't want to forget, because this is usually forgotten by so many developers. So after we have this, we need to remember in the connection we have, again, let me remind you that we have a variable called con. So we need to use this con. Here I'm going to say con, and then prepare, and then we need to pass the statement. So the statement is insert into what? We need to insert into the orders. We need to insert into the orders table. So we need to insert into the orders table. Here we need to insert into the orders table. I'm going to say here insert into orders. And what do we want to insert? We want to insert the order cost, the status, the ID, the user, all of these things, except for the ID. The order ID will be given by the database automatically. So we need to start by the order cost. So the order cost, I'm going to say here, order underscore cost, is the total amount, and I'm going to get this shortly. The second thing that we need to insert is the order status. The order status is always going to be on hold. So I'm going to say order underscore status. The third thing is the user ID. So we need to get the user ID. I'm going to say user underscore ID. And then we need the phone, user phone. And then user phone, and then city. User city, and then user address and order date. User address, and then order date. And then in a new line, I'm gonna here in a new line, I'm gonna add a new line, and then I'm gonna say values. So what are the values? The values are, first, for the order cost, we need to get the cost from the session. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna say here order cost, and to get the order cost from the session, we just need to say session and then total. This is gonna get the total from the session. And then the order status, I'm gonna say order underscore status. The order status is whether the order has been paid or not. If the order has been paid, then we need to say paid. But we will allow users to place orders without paying. And then after the order has been placed, I'm going to allow users to pay. So I'm going to say here the initial value is always going to be on hold. So on hold means that the order has been placed but has not been paid. And then user ID. The user ID, I'm going to get the user ID later when I allow users to log in and register. But for now, the user ID is always going to be 1 just for the sake of testing. The user phone number, we have the phone number from the form, we have the name, and we have everything else. Lastly, we need the order date. So we need to say order underscore date. So the order date is going to be a date time. Let's use the date time now. Or we can use the date function. We can use date, ymd. Y is for the year, month, day, and then hour, minutes, seconds, which is this function. Now we can pass these into the values. So the first thing is the order cost. So I'm going to say here order cost. However, this is not a good practice. We need to pass question marks. So we need to pass how many question marks? We need to pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 inputs. So I'm going to say here question mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you don't understand why I'm doing this, this is for the sake of protection. And you can take my course about PHP protection and you will understand the reason behind this. Because this is going to protect the form, and it's going to protect your system from hackers. And again, if you want to take that course, I'd highly recommend taking that course about PHP security best practices if you are interested in understanding and improving your PHP security code and applying best practices. Now we need to call a function here. We need to store this in a variable called stmt. So stmt is going to be equal to connection prepare, and then stmt. We need to call a function called bind param, and the parameters that I'm going to bind are the cost. So the cost is here. The cost is integer I, and then the order status is going to be s string. User ID is I, is integer. Phone number is I. User city is S. User address is S. User date is order date is S. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then comma, and then we need to pass the parameters in order. So the first parameter is the order cost. The second is the order status. The third is the user ID. The fourth is the phone number, is the user phone, which is phone. Here I just said phone. And then after the phone we have the city, and after the city we have the address and the date. Address and the date, order date. However, order date. However, I forgot the email, so the email is not here, so we need to insert the email, or we can just rely on the phone number. So I think I'm gonna rely on the phone number. You can rely on the phone number, or you can use the user ID to get the phone number from the user's database. So there is no problem. I'm not gonna use the email. So the email, I'm just gonna get the email and leave it here. There is no need to use the email because we have the phone number and we have the user ID where we can use to get more information about the user later if we want to. Next, I'm gonna say stmt and then execute. That's it. We need to execute this query. And lastly, we need to get the order ID. So this is going to insert this order into the database, and the database in return is going to issue a new order ID. Therefore, we need to get this order ID in order to use it later in this script. So we need to get the user ID from here. So now what we need to do is that we need to get the order ID. As I told you here, after we insert this order into the database in return will issue a new order. And we need to get this order ID because we will need to use this order ID in order to place each single element, each single product in the order items. Because otherwise we wouldn't know which products the user wants to buy. Because after the user, for example, if the user adds these items, we will not, even if we add an order in the orders table, this orders will only store user information as well as the order ID. But in order to know the order details about that order, we need to store these two or however many number of items that the user wants in the order items. Therefore, we need to get the order ID from the database. So to get the order ID after it has been inserted, after the order has been inserted, the database, if you call the stmt and call a function called insert, the database, after you call insert ID, the database is going to return the order ID, order underscore ID. And I'm going to prove it to you now. Now let me here say echo, and then I'm going to display the order ID just for the sake of testing. I'm going to say order ID. By the way, in the checkout, we need to say here action, and then we need to remove this, and we need to say server first, server / place order, because the checkout page is outside the server, whereas the place order.php is inside the server. So in order to get to the place order file, we need to say server / place order.php. And here in the place order, we just insert the order, and the database will return the order ID. And now we just need to display the order ID just for the sake of testing. So let me click on File and then Save All, and let's test. So now suppose that I am a customer, and let me remove first everything from the cart. And suppose that I am now a customer. So I'm going to go to the home page. And then let me, for example, say that I want to buy this item. I'm going to click on Buy Now. And then I'm going to click on Add to Cart. And then I'm going to click on Checkout. So if I click on Checkout, it's going to ask me to fill out this form. So let me fill out this form quickly. So I have filled this form quickly, and let me click on Place Order. Again, you will not be able to click on Place Order unless you fill the complete form. So if you forget to fill one of these, it's not going to work. So for example, if you click on place order, it's not going to work. It's going to tell you please fill out the form. So let me click on place order. If I click on place order, guess what? It's going to display here as you can see, it's going to display 1. What does this one mean? This one means that the order has been inserted into the database. Let me show you this. Now in the orders table, if I refresh the orders table, a new order has been placed. As you can see, a new order has been placed with my information. So order ID is 1, order cost is 155, order status is on hold because I didn't pay, and the order has just been placed. The user ID is 1 by default. The user phone number, the city, the address, everything has been stored into the database. So this is how it works, and now we made sure that the order ID will be returned by the database. Now we can move on and continue with the other steps. Welcome back. The next step is that we need to get the products from the cart and insert each single product into the order items. So each single item we have that the user bought will be inserted individually into the database. So again, if the user, for example, wants to buy these two, we need to insert each one individually in a separate row in the database so that we know which items the user wants. So here, the second step, first, before I work on the second step, I'm going to remove this echo. We no longer need this echo. So the second step is that we need to get products from the cart. So to get the products from the cart, we need to use the session, because the session has the cart, and this cart is an array. And since this cart is an array, it has this structure. It has key value pair, where each key represents an order, represents a product ID, and the value is an array with the information about that product. So for example, if we have two products in the cart, the first key is the product ID, and the value is an array with product information such as the product price, the product name, the product description. So what we want to do is that we need to use a for each loop in order to loop over the session and get each single product and store it into the order items database. So I'm going to say here for each, and then for each what? For each session cart, and I'm going to remove this. We no longer need this. So I'm going to say here for each session cart as key value. We want to get each single array. So in order to access each product, we need to say product is going to be equal to session cart and then key. This is going to get each single product as an array. So this is going to return an array with the product. And now we can get each single piece of info that this product has. For example, each product, we can say product name. Remember, in the cart we store them in these keys. So we have the product ID, product name, price, image, quantity. So you need to use these keys. You cannot use other keys other than these. So we need to say here product underscore ID, and then the product ID is going to be equal to product ID is going to be equal to the product ID, and we can repeat the process, and it's going to take some time. So let me work on this quickly. I'm going to say product name, and again the name is the key for the name is name, price, image, quantity. So here name, and then product, image, and then product, price, and then product quantity, and here quantity. Again, you need to double check your keys here, because if you have a mistake here, you will have a severe problem and you will not be able to figure out the problem easily. So you need to double check before moving on. Product ID, product name, product price, image, quantity. Product ID, name, image, price, quantity. Now we need to insert each single one into the database. And to do this, we can use the connection. We can say con and then prepare and then insert insert into what? We need to insert into now into the order items. So I'm going to say order underscore items, order items, and then what do we want to insert? We want to insert the order ID, the product ID, the product name, the product image, the user ID, and the order date. And the item ID is going to be given by the database automatically. So we need to say here, we need to start with the product, with the order ID. So I'm going to say here order underscore ID, comma, and then the second is the product ID, product ID. The third is product name and then image, product name, and then product image. And lastly, we have the user ID and the order date. User ID and then order date. So the order date, we have the order date, but we don't have we have everything actually. So let me add a new line first, and then I'm gonna say values. Values. And you need to be very cautious, because if you have any problem with the syntax of this SQL, it's not gonna work. So how many question marks? Again, you need to use question marks, because otherwise your data will be could be under attack by hackers. And again, if you are interested in PHP security and security best practices, you can take my course about security best practices of PHP. So here we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need to see 6 question marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we need to store this in a variable called stmt1. Let's say stmt, just stmt. Let's say stmt1, just to differentiate between this and the other one. And then I'm gonna say here stmt1 bind param. And what are the parameters that we want to bind? First, we need to bind the order ID. So the order ID is integer. The product ID is integer. The product name is string. The product image is string. The user ID is integer. The order date is string. And then comma, and then let's start with the order ID. So the order ID is here. This is the order ID. I'm going to say here order ID. And then product ID. Product ID. And then after the product ID, we need the product name. So we have the product name, and then the product image, and then the we also need the product price and quantity. So I forgot to add here the product name and the price, the quantity. So we need to add here let me say structure, and let me add the product here. I'm going to add the quantity. The quantity is very important. So I'm going to add 2 columns after the image. And these columns are going to be the product price and the product quantity. So the product price is going to be integer, is going to be decimal actually, and is going to be um, 4 6, let's say 6 2, and the quantity is integer, and that's it actually. The decimal, let me check the decimal. So we have the decimal, and 6 means that it's going to be 6 digits, and 2 of these digits are going to be 2 of these 6 are going to be points, are going to be digits after the point. So let me click on save, and now if I click on product items, you will find that we have here product price and product quantity. So this is correct. Let me now go back, and here let me insert after the product image, we need to say product underscore price, and then comma product underscore quantity, and then comma. And here we need to say IISS, and then the price and the quantity are integers. So we need to say I, and then IS, and then here we need to increase the number of question marks. So I'm going to increase the question marks to 8, because now we have 8 parameters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here I'm going to say product image, and then product price, and then product quantity, and then product and then user ID. So the last parameter is the order date, and you can get the order date from previously we have created the order date and the user ID. So there is no need to create it one more time. Finally, we need to execute this statement. I'm going to say stmt and then execute. This is going to execute the statement, and that's it. This is for this part. So for this part, we just need to do this. So let's now test. Let me save everything. Let me head on over to the browser and test. So now in the browser, let me add these into the cart. So let me first start from the beginning. I'm going to go to the home page, and I'm going to click on, I'm going to add this to cart, and I'm going to add another product to cart. So we already have these products to add it to cart. Let me click on checkout, and let me fill out this form. So after I filled out this form, let me click on place order, and we have a problem here in line 47. So the line 47, I have a problem. It says 47, I should say STMT1. So this is a simple mistake. And I also have a problem with here I should say order items with an S. So as I told you, seeing a very simple mistake could cause so many problems. So here order underscore items, because the table is order underscore items with an S. Let's try one more time. So I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to add this to cart. We already have this in the cart, so let me click on checkout. Let me fill out this form quickly. So after I have filled out this form, let me click on place order, and as you can see, nothing will happen, and because I didn't display anything. But let's check the database. Now in the orders, in the order items, we should have 2 items. As you can see, we have 2 items. The first item is the white shoes, and the second item is green bag, and that's correct. And the name of the images, the prices, the quantities, everything has been stored here. And notice something important: the order ID is the same. The order ID is 4 and 4, because the same person, which is me, has ordered these two all in one single order. So the order is going to be 1. So the order is order number 4, and this order, the details of this order, the details is this, are these 2 lines, are these 2 rows. The details of the order are the white shoes and the green bag. This is a very important concept And by using the order ID, we will be able to do awesome things.